and I came here from Washington State. I'm a lifetime Democrat who is abandoning Harris due to her unconditional support of Israeli Zionist regime who are committing genocide. The whole world is screaming, but makes no difference in Biden administration and his VP Kamala, who's the nominee for the Democratic Party as a presidential candidate. Just remember, we can watch the misery and suffering and dying of little babies underneath the rubble in our smartphone. They've been hiding from us for many years, but the day has been changed. The social media changed this world. The Bharat media used to hide all the information from us. But thanks to social media, we can watch it in our handheld cell phone. There is not only 40,000 women and children died. There are another 145,000 buried under the rubble. They didn't even get a chance for the prayer. The world has to wake up, and America has to wake up. Listen, we cannot be part of genocide, of killing women and children and babies. Have some mercy, have some soul. You know, how can you sleep at night thinking about it, that your tax dollar are responsible of killing innocent children just because AIPAC controlled this country? We have good candidates, moral candidates. You know, wake up, America. Wake up. For God's sake, wake up. The whole world is screaming, and we are listening to this Zionist evil regime. And I hope and pray that this woman, if she doesn't decide it to stop the genocide, she lose. And people say to me, Riz, then you are voting for Donald Trump. He will be the next president, and he hates Muslims. I say genocide is happening right now. I don't care about the hypothetical genocide. I lived and survived under 4 years of Biden administration. I will survive. I will sacrifice, but to stop killing the women and children. Not only Gaza, and also other countries around the world. Thank you, and I apologize for being emotional, but that's the truth comes out from my heart as a father and a grandfather. I can't watch anymore, no longer. The suffering has to be stopped. Cease fire now!
Cease fire now! Cease fire now! Cease fire now! Cease fire now! Cease fire now!
Before, we are Democrat, Republican, atheist, agnostic, LGBTQ, Muslim, Christian, or Jew. We are human being. We are human being. And one human being cannot see the suffering of another human being, especially the women and children who are getting buried alive. It has nothing to do with the Democrat or Republican or black or white or atheist, agnostic or Jews or Christian or Hindu or Sikh. It all has to do with the humanity. If you are a human being, you will speak up against all the evils, so your children will remember. Keep the legacy alive. Keep your children proud of you, and stay away from these hypocrites and evil people. Thank you, America.
And whether you as an individual or as a politician, the seriousness that you actually give to this issue is what decides your seriousness as an individual or as a politician. It's what decides your electability. And so we're here saying and announcing that we are launching Abandon Harris. And we're very well aware of what this decision entails and what it will take and what will happen if we get our way. And we're saying that we are firm, we are full of conviction, we will be steadfast in this decision, and we will not waver.
So AOC, Bernie Sanders, and other progressives, progressive-minded politicians endorsed Harris despite her not announcing a policy change on funding Israel's assault on Gaza. Do you have a message for those politicians?
Yes, I think this is a byproduct, a not really spoken about byproduct of what happens when you negotiate and compromise with evil. The stances and the way these politicians were portrayed was different than it is now. And I think now they fall into the category of PEP, progressive except for Palestine.
Now, you might have addressed this earlier, but a large number of liberals watching that are yelling at you guys, saying, congratulations, Trump is worse. What message would you have? How would you respond to that? You might have addressed that.
There's nothing worse than the current genocide that is happening. And as Dr. Jill Stein said, it's not one evil versus a lesser evil. It is two greater evils, one that is currently committing genocide and one that wants to go in there and finish the job. That's the situation we're in right now. And yes, you know what? Perhaps Trump may be worse. But what I know for a fact is that if the last 11 months had been happening under Trump, the same people who have been silent and complicit today, sitting in their homes, would have been out in the streets supporting us.
So Medea Benjamin is here. Code Pink, you guys obviously have a very large anti-war presence here at the March on the DNC. What are some of your goals for today?
Our goals are to send a message over to that convention center where the delegates are meeting, where they're going to be hearing from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And we want them to know that they do not represent the majority of people in this country, and they certainly don't represent the majority of Democrats. And we think that our voices are actually the voices of the majority. And it's been way too long that our policies have been captured by moneyed interests, whether it's groups like AIPAC or groups like Christians United for Israel or the military-industrial complex that loves to keep us in conflicts. And the American people don't need that, don't want that.
Indeed. So there's been very little movement in the last 6 or 7 years when it was finally discussed on the DNC platform about let's talk about the Israel-Palestine problem. And I think you're right. Majority of Democrats do want, in the very least, a ceasefire. They often frame it as a Jewish versus non-Jewish conversation, which is not accurate. There are plenty of Jewish people that want an end to the ceasefire, and many indeed that aren't even Zionists. Do you think it's solely the money that's keeping the Democratic Party from doing this, A? And then secondly, do you think there's been going to be a movement more to the left on this issue with Kamala Harris versus Biden? Biden has said repeatedly that he's a dyed-in-the-wool Zionist.
Yeah, I think it's partially the money. It's also a mindset that has been in our system for decades now, that Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. It's our only ally in the Middle East. And on these trips that AIPAC organizes to take all these members of Congress, they see that one-sided view that Israel wants them to see, and they come back thinking, there's really no problem in Israel. The problem is these Arabs that are so violent. So, you know, Joe Biden comes from a real old-fashioned Zionist mindset that is out of step with the young people. Kamala Harris, we have more of a chance to reach her, I think. So that's, you know, part of our message here is to say to Kamala Harris, not only is it the moral policy, the politically correct policy, but it's the only policy future-looking that will not lead to another regional crisis.
No, you're not wrong. A lot of that conversation has to do with generations, right? The older generation, my generation, your generation. Zionism was never questioned, especially even in the progressive Jewish communities, right? It's not until you actually learn about some of the history where you kind of go, that's not what I was told. And now the kids have access, obviously, to the internet and other data. So I think that's an accurate assessment.
Absolutely. I mean, I was brought up in a Jewish family and sent to live on a kibbutz when I was 16 years old and told that, you know, this is the Jews are the people who made the desert bloom. And it took me a while to realize that, So now we know the truth, but the young people, as you say, they're getting the truth every day on their social media.
They indeed are. I guess, okay, you guys, thank you for talking with us, Medea. Appreciate that. We're talking with a gal now that has an abandoned Harris 24 sign. I know we were at the press conference for this earlier today. Oh, right on. So what are absolutely. What are your thoughts on all this?
We don't see that change comes with Harris or in November. I think we're looking to the long term, how we can change the system from the power from the politician to the power to the people. I think that's the main thing.
So it's mainly a systemic problem, right? No matter which party is in charge, this issue can't be touched at all. I do think I'm 53 now, I think that we're having more conversations about this today than we've ever had in my lifetime. I'm not saying that's enough. Look what's happening in Gaza right now. Kamala Harris has been saying things like, I hear you anti-war folks. I'm not ignoring you. Do you feel like that's just lip service?
Yep. I believe this is just a lip service. I think she will keep serving herself and the people around her, not the people of America. She sent actually a powerful message by approving $20 billion to Israel. Have you heard about the doctor that got married recently in Gaza? She was very excited. She's going to have a twin. She even posted that on Facebook. The Israeli terrorist forces decide we're going to bomb her house only. Only her apartment was bombed after she had her baby 4 days. The dad went to get some certification, the birth certification. He came back, found all his family, that his wife, his twin, and the mother-in-law, all of them are dead. Only in Gaza, the birth and the death certification, you get them at the same time.
This was in Gaza, not the West Bank?
This is like 1 week ago. Just 1 week ago. In West Bank also, it reminds me with the Emetel story. There is another Muhammad, he's 14 years old. He was walking, going to pray, in the morning early. Israeli settlers, they kidnapped him, put him in a car, took him to a tree, a forest. They tied him to the tree, they burned him alive. And no accountability. By the way, America also needs to know all the rapists in America, they go under a law called return law. They go to Israel. What kind of values here? What kind of message does that send you? That's what occupation look like. Segregation, rapist, starvation, bombing house. There is no safety, whether in Palestine, in West Bank or Gaza for the Palestinian.